So what happens when your son, who's 30 years old, asks you to make the dragon wreath you just showed him? And what else would I answer? But of course, honey, I'll make you the most ugliest wreath I've ever made. No, it's not really that ugly. It's kind of cute if you think about it. So let's learn how to make a dragon wreath. Okay, so you're going to start off with eyes. Yes, these are glass eyes that you can get off of Amazon. And I purchased a pack of them, and I have no idea on this earth what I'm going to do with all these, but I bet you my 11-year-old will figure it out. So I went through all these little eyes and figured out which one or which pair, honestly, let's be honest. Dragon has 2 eyes, and we picked out 2 pairs to go with this dragon. Narrowing it down, this was the winner because these were the colors of mesh we're using. Now, here's the interesting thing. This is a kid's costume, and we are going to actually use this on our wreath. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut off the straps on the face of our dragon, and we're going to just take some hot glue and glue it onto the actual mask. Now, I just said hot glue and I got this glue out, but you know what I mean. We'll just, you could use hot glue. Definitely. But I use this Gorilla Glue here. And then I got a tip from one of my viewers, and Vivian, thank you for the tip. But after you put on the eye, you can add some black felt to the background so that you might not be able to see any of the blank space that the eyeball doesn't fit. So that's a really good tip. And as you can see, we could have used some black felt there. So little extra tip for you there. Once you get these eyeballs on, we're going to set this to the side, and we are going to get started with cutting our mesh. Now, we are going to cut this poly burlap with this wood burner. Again, you can get all these tools over on Amazon, and we're going to cut our pieces of poly burlap at 10 inches wide. All right. So I can't remember exactly how many we use for each color, but you're going to need probably a good 20 pieces of each color, all right? And we are going to cut it with the wood burner on this glass cutting board because it's literally going to help us not have the edges fray as much. And when you're working with any type of mesh, that's super important. So let's get started with folding this mesh. You're going to make a triangle. Pretty easy, right? Then you're going to fold it over again and make another triangle. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the folded side and I'm going to fold it over one more time. All right. And this, we're going to kind of pull it along there to kind of make it that scale. Is that what it's called? Like a dragon scale, or, those things that come shooting out their back. You guys have watched the movies. And this is what we're going to put on our wreath. So all I'm going to do is make some of these and then have them ready to go. And the little chip clips are just a really easy way to do that. So let's do this again. Make a triangle, another triangle, and a third triangle. And then you're going to just elongate the petal and make sure that it has a nice kind of like pointy side is what I want to say. Isn't that cool? And I like how poly burlap kind of gives you the option. So I just kind of made it and had it a little curl, not curl, but a little, what do you call it? A little bend in it. Now you don't have to do it this way, but I took 2 of these Dollar Tree wreath forms and I zip tied them together because I wanted a little bit thicker frame. And you can do this with Dollar Tree wreath forms. And so it's a little bit, maybe a little bit easier to handle when you put it on the door. And I feel like Dollar Tree wreath frames can be a little, unstable at times. So we're going to reinforce it and use this and just add some zip ties around the frames to connect them together. So you have that all taken care of. We're going to take our different colors. Now, these 3 colors are very specific colors to my son's work. Now, as I said in the beginning, my 30-year-old son wanted this dragon wreath. So this is not my favorite wreath to make, but what he wants, I'll make because it's the actual colors of his work. And so he thought this was pretty cool. And you know what? He's in the computer industry and, they like this kind of stuff. What can I say? So I kind of put it on the second bar and like slid the extra ending down into our frame there. And then we're just going to keep going around this frame with our different colors. Now we started out with the turquoise, and then we're going to add the green, and then we're going to add the purple. Now, if you can tuck the bottom of your, little scale or whatever you want to call them. I'm sure I'm saying the wrong thing. You know what I mean? Um, you can do that. But for the most part, you probably won't for the majority of this wreath. But all we're going to do is we're going to go in the same direction of the same way that these tails are going. And we're going to keep going it until we have a complete wreath. And then we'll be adding all of our other sections. Now, when I started this, I don't know why I did it this way, and then I changed it and I went to the front of it. So don't do what I did here, okay? This was the harder way. Go on top of the fangs or what are those? The little spikes on their backs. I can't even remember what that's called. But you're going to add more and just go around the wreath. This is the hardest part of the wreath. Really, it is. It's like getting these little petals on. And again, have I said this is probably in a lovingly way, this is probably the ugliest wreath I've ever made. Can you tell dragons aren't my thing? But listen, kids would love this, and this is perfect for Halloween. And I wanted to show you this here on YouTube before all of these masks and little costumes ran out because, Halloween's coming up. So I figured I'd show you. And then somebody suggested on the live, hey, Julie, why don't you go over top? And I said, you know what? That's a great idea. I don't know why I didn't think of that sooner. So again, as you can see, that's what I did here. I'm just going to tell you, we ended up putting this little mask on, but we did add a few more petals where the mask lays on this wreath form, okay? So the next thing we're going to do before we do that is we're going to poke some holes. And I know you probably can't see this really good, but this is a, sharp tool thingy. What is it called? Oh, an X-Acto knife. And I want you to be super duper careful, all right? I don't want you to get hurt. You're going to make a little hole, insert it into where like the ears would be. This is a softer plastic. And some of these, depending on the color, are cheaper than others. So I'll have the links for these dragon mask and wings and tail down in the description box below. So once you get that on, and you're going to add it to the wreath frame, and you're going to just use the wreath frame and connect it with that zip tie. Now, I used a black zip tie. You can use a clear zip tie if you want, or you could even use wire if you'd like. But it's not very noticeable, and my son thought it was the best, because his mom made him a wreath. Then we're going to work on the wings. Now, the wings got a little bit tricky here. We got to take them apart. And again, we don't need these straps because nobody's going to fly off with these wings. So after I cut off the elastic pieces, I literally just unscrewed these little, they were like light screws that went in, and this created a hole for us. So this was perfect. I didn't have to put a hole in these, but you will want to take out the kind of the hardware and the fastenings here. So you're going to take those out, easy peasy, lemon squeezy, and you're good to go, right? So then you're going to do this. You're going to take the bottom ones out, and then we're going to cut part of the bottom off of this wreath. And the reason is we don't want this bottom to show. So let me show you what we're going to do. So these will just bend and kind of mold anywhere that you want to put it, which is great because this is not a real stiff piece of equipment here, which is really good because I think it would make it a lot heavier, and it's going to kind of lay flat on your door. So we're just going to take some more zip ties and use the holes that those fastened screws had been in previously. And then we're going to have to just make sure that it stays put and it's not going to go anywhere. Once you get this taken care of, then we need to kind of cut off part of this. So what I did was I took some heavy duty scissors, and again, this is foam, guys. This is not plastic, so it's really easy to fix. Now that we have that excess piece off, I am going to take my X-Acto knife, I remember the correct name, guys, and we're going to put another hole in the center here, and we're going to add one more of these zip ties. So if you've ever looked at one of these wreaths and thought, I could never make this, I'm here to tell you differently. You could definitely make this, and it might be not something that you want to put on your front door like me, but listen, the computer geeks at my son's work, they think this is fabulous. So, there's that. And my 11-year-old thought this was fabulous. So, I don't know. I might need to make another one of these. So, to make sure everything stays put, I went ahead and added another zip tie at the end of our wings that nobody's going to see because it's behind the wreath. And that's okay too. And this is where that back end of the Dollar Tree wreath frame coming on both sides of it, it works as a great holder. Then we've got the tail. This tail is so cute. I think the tail was my favorite part. It was just really easy to do, and I just was kind of like impressed with myself that I made something like this. I think this would be great for like a birthday party as well. So you're just going to run the X-Acto knife through like the fins. Now we're calling it fins. We're going to run it through one of the fins, and we're going to connect it to the wreath form. And you know what? It turned out pretty darn cute, if I had to say so to myself. So what I want you to do is, if you watch tonight's video, I want you to leave me some sort of dragon down in the comments. All right. Do you guys like having a new video midweek? I know we're not usually here on Wednesday nights, but I'm trying to make a really good effort to put out more content. So if you want to see more content, and guess what? I have something really cool coming up this Sunday and next Wednesday. I am so excited. Oh, I think fall and candy corn. All right. So 2 different videos, and you're going to love it. But this is pretty much it, guys. This wreath, she's done. I mean, I guess it's not a she, or maybe it's a he, but it could be a she. Then I just took little pieces of my felt that I had left over, and we went over any part that I thought might rub onto the door. I add a black zip tie to the back so we have something to hang her on, and she's finished. She is done, and guess what? My son loved this ugly wreath. I know she's not really ugly. She's beautiful in her own way, but she's not flowers and she's not pink. So there's that. All right. So I will see you guys next time on Julie's Wreath Boutique. And don't forget, leave me that dragon emoji. Let me know if you're going to make one of these and if you've been just waiting to learn how to make this. So we'll see you next time in Julie's Wreath Boutique. See you later. Bye-bye.